Get on your knees. The words sliced through the silence of the empty restaurant kitchen, and Kira Adams froze with the mop still clutched in her hands. 3 men in dark suits blocked the back exit, and the one in the center, the one who had spoken, was pointing a gun directly at her chest. I said, he repeated, his accent thick, get on your knees. Now. Kira's heart hammered against her ribs. The bleach water from the mop bucket was seeping into her worn sneakers. It was 11:47 p.m. She was supposed to be home by now, supposed to be helping her grandmother take her medication, supposed to be anywhere but here, staring down the barrel of a weapon she'd only ever seen on television. Please, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm just the cleaning girl. I don't know anything about. Shut up. The man stepped closer. You saw the exchange. You saw the money. You think we're stupid? You think we don't check the security cameras? Kira's blood ran cold. The exchange. 2 hours ago, she had walked into the storage room to grab more paper towels and stumbled upon 4 men transferring stacks of cash into metal briefcases. She had backed out immediately, hadn't said a word to anyone, had kept her head down and continued mopping like her life depended on it. Apparently, it did. I didn't see anything, she said, her voice steadier now even though her hands were shaking. I swear to God, I walked in, I walked out. I don't care about your business. I just want to go home. The man with the gun laughed, a cold, hollow sound. That's what they all say, sweetheart. Right before they go running to the cops. He cocked the weapon. Nothing personal. Kira closed her eyes. And then she heard it, a voice, deep and calm, cutting through the chaos like a blade. Yong-ho. Put the gun down. Every muscle in the room seemed to lock into place. Kira opened her eyes to see a 4th man stepping out from the shadows near the walk-in freezer. He was tall, lean, impeccably dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. His face was devastatingly handsome, sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to hold centuries of secrets, black hair pushed back from his forehead. But it was the way the other 3 men reacted that made Kira's breath catch. They bowed. Actually bowed, like he was royalty. Boss, Yong-ho stammered, lowering his weapon immediately. I didn't know you were, we were just. I heard what you were doing. The man's voice was ice. You were about to execute an innocent woman in a restaurant kitchen and leave a mess for someone else to clean up. Does that sound like the way we operate? Now, before we continue, if you're already invested in this story, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like and comment below with where you're watching from. I want to know what time it is where you are and what city or country is tuning in. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what happens next because this story is about to take a turn nobody saw coming. The man they called boss walked slowly toward Kira, and she found herself unable to move, unable to breathe. Up close, he was even more striking, and more terrifying. There was something in his eyes that spoke of violence, of power, of a world she had no business being anywhere near. What's your name? He asked. Kira. Her voice cracked. Kira Adams. He studied her face for a long moment, and she felt exposed, like he could see straight through to her soul, to every struggle, every sleepless night, every tear she'd cried into her pillow when no one was watching. Kira, he repeated, and the way he said her name sent an inexplicable shiver down her spine. You work here? I clean. 3 nights a week. She swallowed hard. I didn't know the restaurant was. I didn't know about any of this. I just needed the job. Everyone needs something. He tilted his head slightly. The question is, what do I do with you now? Yong-ho stepped forward. Boss, with all due respect, she's a liability. She's seen too much. Protocol says. I know what protocol says. The boss didn't raise his voice, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I also know that I give the orders here. Not you. Not anyone else. He turned back to Kira. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home. You're going to forget everything you saw tonight. And you're never going to speak a word of this to anyone. Kira nodded frantically. Yes. Absolutely. I won't say anything. I swear on my grandmother's life. Something flickered in his eyes at the mention of her grandmother. You live with her. Your grandmother. She's sick, Kira heard herself saying, though she didn't know why she was telling this man, this dangerous, beautiful stranger, anything at all. Stage 3 kidney disease. She's all I have. She raised me. I'm all she has. The boss was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a card, simple, white, with nothing but a phone number printed on it. If anyone comes looking for you after tonight, anyone at all, you call this number. He pressed the card into her palm, and the brush of his fingers against her skin sent electricity shooting up her arm. Do you understand? Why? The word escaped before she could stop it. Why would you help me? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to his men, switching to rapid Korean, his tone harsh and commanding. The three men bowed again and filed out of the kitchen without another word. Then it was just the two of them, standing in the fluorescent light amid the smell of bleach and grease. Because, he finally said, his eyes meeting hers one last time, no one should have to die on their knees in a kitchen, begging for their life. He paused. Go home, Kira Adams. And stay away from this place. Before she could respond, he was gone, disappearing through the back door like smoke. Kira stood there for what felt like hours, the white card clutched in her trembling hand. It wasn't until she heard the distant sound of car engine starting that her legs finally gave out, and she sank to the floor, pressing her back against the industrial refrigerator. Who was that man? And why did his final look at her feel less like a warning and more like a promise? 3 weeks passed. Kira quit her job at the restaurant that same night, claimed a family emergency, didn't ask for her final paycheck, didn't even go back for her jacket. She picked up extra shifts at the laundromat on 5th Street and started doing hair braiding on weekends for the women in her building to make up the difference. She tried to forget. But she couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he had stood in front of those men like a king among soldiers. The way his voice had wrapped around her name. The way he had looked at her, not with pity, not with disgust, but with something that almost resembled curiosity. It was ridiculous. She was ridiculous. Kira, baby, you all right? Her grandmother's voice pulled her back to the present. They were sitting in the cramped living room of their apartment, the evening news playing on the old television that only worked half the time. I'm fine, Grams. Kira forced a smile. Just tired. Gloria Adams studied her granddaughter with knowing eyes. 82 years on this earth had taught her to see what people tried to hide. You've been different lately, Gloria said softly. Something happened. Something you're not telling me. Kira looked down at her hands. The white card was tucked into her nightstand drawer, hidden beneath old birthday cards and receipts. She'd looked at the number at least 100 times but never dialed it. It's nothing, Grams. Really. Chilly, I've been knowing you since you were born with your fists balled up, ready to fight the world. Don't tell me nothing. Gloria reached over and took Kira's hand. Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone. Tears pricked at Kira's eyes. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared, and I don't even know why anymore. Before Gloria could respond, there was a knock at the door. Both women froze. It was after 9 p.m. They never had visitors this late. In this neighborhood, unexpected knocks rarely meant anything good. Stay here, Kira said, rising slowly. Baby, don't. Grams, please. Kira moved to the door, her heart pounding. She pressed her eye to the peephole and felt the air leave her lungs. It was him. The Korean man from the restaurant, standing in the dingy hallway of her apartment building, looking completely out of place in his tailored coat and polished shoes. She opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. "How did you find me? I make it my business to know things." His voice was as calm as she remembered. "May I come in?" "Are you crazy?" "No, you may not come in." "What are you doing here?" He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw something in his eyes that surprised her, something that looked almost like exhaustion. Like he'd been carrying a weight too heavy for too long. "I need your help," he said. Kira laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "You need my help? You're the one with the gun-wielding henchman. What could you possibly need from me?" "There's going to be a gathering. A business event, 5 days from now. I need someone to be seen with me. Someone no one would expect." He paused. "Someone who isn't part of my world. You want me to pretend to be your, what? Your girlfriend? My fiancée?" Kira stared at him. "You've lost your mind." "Perhaps." He didn't smile. "But the people I'm meeting, they think I'm weak. They think I'm soft because I haven't taken a wife, because I don't have an heir. They're already planning to remove me from power." His jaw tightened. "I refuse to let that happen. And what does any of this have to do with me? You don't look like anyone they would expect. You're not Korean, you're not from the families they've been pressuring me to marry into, and you're not afraid to look a man in the eye when he threatens your life." His gaze softened, just barely. That took courage. More courage than most people have. Kira's mind was racing. This was insane. This was the most insane thing she'd ever heard in her life. She should slam the door, call the police, forget she ever heard any of this. But then she thought about the stack of medical bills on the kitchen counter. The dialysis treatments that insurance refused to cover. The way her grandmother's hands shook when she tried to hide her pain. "What's in it for me?" Kira heard herself ask. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe, or respect. $50,000, he said. "For 5 days of your time." The number hit her like a physical blow. $50,000. That was enough for the medical bills, enough for a down payment on a better apartment in a safer neighborhood, enough to give her grandmother a fighting chance. "Who are you?" she whispered. "My name is Kong Min-jun." He pulled a card from his pocket, different from the last one, this one embossed with gold lettering. "But in my world, they call me something else." Kira read the card, and her blood went cold. Kong Min-jun, CEO of Kong Industries. But beneath that title, in smaller letters, were 2 words that changed everything. Busan Syndicate. The Korean Mafia. She was standing in her doorway, negotiating with the boss of the Korean Mafia. "You have until tomorrow night to decide," Min-jun said, stepping back from the door. "But Kira, I meant what I said before. I don't hurt innocent people. I'm not my father." A shadow crossed his face. "And I never will be." He turned and walked down the hallway, his footsteps echoing on the worn linoleum until they faded into silence. Kira closed the door and leaned against it, her heart hammering, her mind spinning with questions she couldn't begin to answer. What was she going to do? Was that a man's voice I heard? Kira jumped. Her grandmother was standing in the hallway, a knowing look on her face. It was nobody, Grams. Didn't sound like nobody. Gloria shuffled closer. Sounded like the kind of nobody who might change everything. Kira opened her mouth to argue, but Gloria held up a hand. I'm old, baby, but I'm not blind. And I'm not deaf. She took Kira's hands. Sometimes the universe sends us what we need in a package we don't expect. The question isn't whether you can trust him. The question is whether you can trust yourself. That night, Kira lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the 2 cards spread on her chest. 1 white, 1 gold. 2 pieces of a puzzle she didn't understand. She thought about every man who had ever looked through her, every interviewer who had dismissed her resume, every customer at the laundromat who treated her like she was invisible. She thought about her mother, who had left when she was 7, and her father, who had never been anything more than a name on a birth certificate. They said no man would ever choose her. Too dark. Too tall. Too proud. Too poor. And now, inexplicably, impossibly, the most powerful man she'd ever encountered was standing at her door asking for her help. What was she supposed to do with that? Okay, I have to pause right here and ask you, what do you think Kira should do? Should she take the deal? Should she run the other way? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know what you would do in her situation. Now, let's get back to the story. The next evening, Kira made her decision. She put on the nicest dress she owned, a simple black wrap dress she'd worn to her cousin's wedding 3 years ago, and took the bus downtown to the address on the gold card. Kong Industries occupied the top 15 floors of a gleaming skyscraper, and the lobby alone looked like it cost more than every building in her neighborhood combined. Can I help you? The receptionist looked at Kira like she'd wandered in from another planet. I'm here to see Mr. Kong. Kira kept her voice steady. He's expecting me. The receptionist's smile was polished and fake. I'm sorry, but Mr. Kong doesn't take walk-ins. If you'd like to leave your information, tell him Kira Adams is here. Kira didn't blink. Tell him I have an answer. Something flickered in the receptionist's eyes, uncertainty, maybe, or curiosity. She picked up the phone and spoke in hushed Korean, and then her expression changed entirely. The fake smile became something almost like awe. 10th floor, she said, buzzing Kira through. He'll meet you himself. The elevator ride felt like an eternity. When the doors opened, Min Jun was standing there waiting, and for a moment, Kira forgot how to breathe. He wasn't in a suit this time, just a white button-down, sleeves rolled up, exposing forearms that were more muscular than she'd expected. He looked different. Almost human. You came, he said. I came. She stepped out of the elevator. But I have conditions. His eyebrows rose slightly. Conditions? First, no one threatens me. No guns, no intimidation, nothing like what happened at the restaurant. She held his gaze. Second, I need half the money up front. My grandmother needs treatment, and I'm not waiting until this is over to get it for her. Done. She blinked. Just like that. Your conditions are reasonable. He gestured for her to follow him down the hallway. I have conditions of my own. They entered an office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. What conditions? She asked. For 5 days, you will stay at my estate. It's necessary for the charade to be believable. We'll need to learn each other's habits, our stories, our supposed history. He moved to his desk and leaned against it, arms crossed. You'll be given everything you need. Clothes, food, transportation. But you cannot contact anyone outside unless I approve it. That sounds like a prison. That sounds like protection. His eyes darkened. The people I'm dealing with, they're not like the men you met at the restaurant. Those were foot soldiers. Pawns. The ones coming to this gathering are the kings and queens of their territories. If they suspect for one moment that this is a lie, he stopped himself. What? Kira pressed. What happens if they suspect? They'll try to destroy us both. His voice was flat. And they'll make it slow. The words hung in the air between them. Kira should have been terrified. But something in his eyes told her there was more. Something he wasn't saying. Why me? She asked softly. The truth. Not the politics, not the strategy. Why me? Min Jun was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. Because when I saw you in that kitchen, surrounded by men who wanted you dead, you didn't beg. You didn't cry. You stood there and looked them in the eye like you had already accepted whatever was coming. He paused. And then you asked about your grandmother. In what you thought were your final moments, you were thinking about someone else. That's not strength, Kira said. That's stubbornness. Maybe. The ghost of a smile crossed his face. But it reminded me of someone I lost a long time ago. Before Kira could ask who, there was a knock at the door. A woman entered, elegant, Korean, dressed in a severe black pantsuit. Her eyes swept over Kira with barely concealed disdain. Min-jun. She spoke in English deliberately. Your uncle is on the phone. He wants to discuss the arrangement. Tell him I'm busy. He's insisting. The woman's smile was sharp. He says if you don't take the call, he'll come here himself. The tension in the room spiked. Min-jun's expression hardened. Leave us, he said to the woman. Now. Min-jun. Hygiene. I will not ask again. The woman, Hygiene, shot Kira a look of pure venom before walking out. Who was that? Kira asked. My father's second wife. Min-jun's voice was carefully controlled. She believed she should be running things. She spent the last 10 years making sure I know it. And your uncle? My father's brother. He believes the same thing. Min-jun moved to the window. The gathering I mentioned, it's not just about business. It's about succession. My father died 6 months ago, and ever since, they've been circling. Waiting for me to fail. So I'm what? Your secret weapon. He turned to face her. You're the one thing they won't see coming. The estate was unlike anything Kira had ever seen. Set in the hills outside the city, it sprawled across acres of manicured grounds. But what struck Kira most wasn't the luxury, it was the emptiness. You live here alone, she asked as Min-jun led her through the marble foyer. I have staff. He didn't look back. But yes. Alone. That sounds lonely. He stopped walking. When he turned, his expression was raw. It is, he said simply. But loneliness is safer than the alternative. Which is? Caring about someone. His eyes met hers. And watching them be used against you. Before she could respond, a door opened down the hall, and a young woman emerged, Korean, maybe 19 or 20, with pink-streaked hair and a defiant expression. Appa. She spotted Kira and stopped dead. Wait. Who's this? Soo-yeon. Min-jun's voice carried a warning. I told you to stay in your room. You told me a lot of things. I don't listen. Soo-yeon walked closer, circling Kira with open curiosity. Is this her? Is this the woman you've been talking about? Kira's heart skipped. Go back to your room, Min-jun said through gritted teeth. Nope. Soo-yeon grinned. I like her. She has good energy. She grabbed Kira's arm. Come on. I'll show you where you're sleeping. She was already dragging Kira down the hallway, leaving Min-jun standing alone with an expression somewhere between frustration and affection. Is he always like that? Kira asked as Soo-yeon led her upstairs. Like what? Brooding? Mysterious? Soo-yeon laughed. Yeah, pretty much. But don't let him fool you. Underneath all that, he's actually kind. Soo-yeon stopped in front of a door and turned serious. Look, I don't know why he chose you for whatever this plan is. But I do know one thing. What? He hasn't seen this alive since our mother died. 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Stylists measured her for designer gowns. Language coaches taught her basic Korean phrases. An elderly woman named Mrs. Park drilled her on etiquette and protocol. But it was the moments between the training that Kira found herself replaying late at night. Min-jun teaching her to hold chopsticks properly, his fingers brushing hers. Min-jun laughing, actually laughing, at a joke she made. Min-jun finding her in the garden at 2 a.m. when she couldn't sleep, and sitting beside her in silence until the sun began to rise. He never pushed. Never demanded anything beyond what they'd agreed upon. But the way he looked at her sometimes. You're falling for him. Kira nearly dropped her teacup. Soo-yeon had appeared out of nowhere. I'm not falling for anyone, Kira said firmly. Aha. Soo-yeon's smile was knowing. Just so you know, he's never let anyone use the garden house. That was our mother's place. No one's been allowed there since she died. She paused. Until you. The night of the gathering arrived. Kira barely recognized herself in the mirror. The gown was stunning, a deep emerald green that complemented her brown skin perfectly, with delicate gold embroidery that caught the light when she moved. You look like a queen. She turned to find Min-jun standing in the doorway. He was in a traditional Korean hanbok, all in black except for the silver embroidery. He looked like something out of a historical drama. But his eyes were soft as he looked at her. You're staring, she said. I know. He didn't apologize. I can't help it. He crossed the room and stopped in front of her. Before we go in there, he said quietly, I need you to know something. What? The things I said that first night, about needing someone to pretend, about keeping up appearances. He swallowed hard. It wasn't all pretend. Not for me. Kira's heart stopped. Min-jun. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know this wasn't supposed to be real. But I needed you to know. She didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process the emotions flooding through her. Okay, she whispered. I know. He offered his arm. Are you ready? She took a deep breath, looped her arm through his, and together they walked toward the gathering. The ballroom was filled with powerful people who controlled empires. And they were all staring at her. Min-jun guided her through the crowd, introducing her as his fiancée. Kira played her part flawlessly. But something was wrong. She felt it in the whispers. In the knowing glances between the older men. In the way Hae-jin watched from across the room. Min-jun, she murmured. Something's not right. Before he could respond, a voice rang out. Ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention? The crowd parted, and Min-jun's uncle stepped forward, a tall man with cold eyes. I want to thank my nephew for bringing us together tonight, he said smoothly. But before we continue, I think there's something everyone should know about his lovely fiancée. Kira's blood turned to ice. It's come to my attention, the uncle continued, pulling out a folder, that Ms. Adams is not who she claims to be. She's not Min-jun's lover. She's a cleaning woman, bought and paid for to play a role. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Furthermore, the uncle said, it seems my nephew has been hiding other secrets. Financial discrepancies. Unauthorized payments. Evidence of weakness that makes him unfit to lead. Those documents are fabricated, Min-jun said, his voice dangerous. Are they? His uncle smiled. The council will decide. Everything happened at once. Security moved to surround them. Hae-jin appeared triumphant. The council members murmured among themselves. And then Kira did something no one expected. She stepped forward and addressed the crowd directly. You want to know who I am? Her voice was strong, echoing through the ballroom. You're right. I'm not from your world. I'm a cleaning woman. I take the bus to work. I've never worn a dress this expensive in my life. Silence fell over the room. But I'll tell you what else I am, she continued. I'm a woman who has fought for everything I've ever had. I'm a woman who held her grandfather's hand when he died and promised to take care of her grandmother no matter what. I'm a woman who looked death in the face and didn't blink. She turned to face the uncle. You think exposing my background destroys me? All it proves is that Min Jun saw value in someone your world would have ignored. It proves he looks beyond your precious bloodlines. She took a step closer. And if that makes him unfit to lead, then maybe you've all been defining leadership wrong. The room was utterly silent. And then, slowly, an elderly man at the front of the council began to clap. Others joined in. The murmuring shifted from suspicion to something almost like respect. Min Jun's uncle looked around, his smile faltering. "This isn't over," he said through gritted teeth. Actually, a voice called out, "It is." Everyone turned. A distinguished man in military dress stepped forward, someone Kira didn't recognize, but from the way the room reacted, he was important. "General Park," Min Jun said, surprise flickering across his face. "I've been watching tonight's proceedings with great interest," General Park said, his voice commanding the room. "I've also been conducting my own investigation into certain irregularities." He turned to Min Jun's uncle. "The financial discrepancies you mentioned? They exist. But they don't trace back to Min Jun." He pulled out his own folder. "They trace back to you." The color drained from the uncle's face. "Embezzlement. Falsified records. Conspiracy to frame your own nephew." General Park's voice was cold. "The evidence is irrefutable." Hygiene tried to slip toward the exit, but security blocked her path. "You were working together," Min Jun said quietly, realization dawning. "All this time. The council has seen enough," General Park announced. Min Jun Kang's leadership is affirmed. As for the conspirators, he gestured, and security moved in. "They will face justice." The uncle was led away, shouting protests that fell on deaf ears. Hygiene followed, her face a mask of fury. And just like that, it was over. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Council members approached Min Jun one by one, offering their support, their respect, their apologies. The tide had turned completely. But through it all, Min Jun kept Kira close, his hand finding hers whenever she started to drift away. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the ballroom had emptied, Kira found herself on the balcony, staring at the city lights. Min Jun joined her. "What you did in there," he finally said. "That wasn't part of the plan." "No," she agreed. "It wasn't. You could have run. Could have let me handle it. Is that who you think I am?" He shook his head slowly. "I don't know who you are. I thought I did. But you keep surprising me. Is that a good thing?" He stepped closer, and suddenly they were standing inches apart. "It's everything," he murmured. His hand came up to cup her face, and Kira felt every nerve in her body come alive. "This is insane," she whispered. "We're from completely different worlds." "I know. People will talk. They'll say you're crazy. They'll say I'm just after your money. Let them talk." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "I've spent my whole life caring what people think. Following rules. Meeting expectations." His voice dropped. "I'm tired of it. Min Jun." "Stay," he said. "Not because of the contract. Not because of the money. Stay because you want to." Kira looked into his eyes and saw everything she'd ever wanted, not wealth, not power, but someone who saw her. Really saw her. Someone who chose her not despite who she was, but because of it. "My grandmother," she said. "I can't just leave her. Then we'll bring her here." His answer was immediate. "The best doctors. The best care. Whatever she needs. You do that? I'd do anything." He leaned his forehead against hers. "Kira, I've built an empire. I've fought wars. I've stared down men who wanted me dead. But nothing, has ever scared me the way you do. Why? Because you're the first thing I've ever wanted that I couldn't just take." His voice cracked slightly. "You have to choose me. And I don't know if you will. Kira felt tears sliding down her cheeks. All her life, she'd been told she wasn't enough. Not pretty enough, not light enough, not connected enough, not worthy enough. And here was this man, this powerful, complicated, beautiful man, standing before her like she held his heart in her hands. I'm scared, she admitted. I know. So am I. What if it doesn't work? Then at least we tried. He pulled back to look at her. I'd rather have one day of really living than a lifetime of playing it safe. Kira took a shaky breath. She thought about her grandmother's words, sometimes the universe sends us what we need in a package we don't expect. Okay, she whispered. Minjun froze. Okay. Okay, I'll stay. A smile broke across her face. But I have conditions. He laughed, a real laugh, full of joy and relief. Of course you do. First, we do this right. Slow. No more pretending. Agreed. Second, I get to keep working. I'm not going to be some trophy wife who lunches. I wouldn't want you to be. And third, she reached up and grabbed his collar, pulling him close. You have to kiss me. Right now. Because I've been waiting for 3 weeks and I'm done waiting. Minjun's smile was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. That, he said softly, is a condition I'm very happy to meet. And then his lips met hers, and the world fell away. The kiss was everything, soft and fierce, gentle and demanding. It was a promise and a question and an answer all at once. Kira melted into him, her hands sliding up to tangle in his hair, and she felt him smile against her mouth. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she laughed. What? He asked. I was just thinking about what the receptionist's face is going to look like when she finds out. Minjun grinned. Worth it. From the doorway, a whoop echoed across the balcony. Finally. Suyun was doing a victory dance. I knew it. I called it from day one. Suyun, Minjun groaned. Go to bed. Are you kidding? This is the best thing that's happened in this house in years. She ran over and threw her arms around Kira. Welcome to the family, Yuni. You're going to need all the help you can get with this one. Kira hugged her back, tears streaming down her face again, happy tears this time. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing me. Both of you. Suyun pulled back, her expression suddenly serious. You're easy to see, Kira. You always were. The world was just too blind to notice. 6 months later, Kira stood in the garden of the estate, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of roses. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Her grandmother sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face, looking healthier than she had in years. The best doctors. The best care. Just like Minjun had promised. Suyun stood beside Kira as her maid of honor, practically vibrating with excitement. And at the end of the aisle, Minjun waited, his eyes never leaving hers. They had decided on a small ceremony, just family and close friends. No politics, no power plays, no one watching to see if they'd fail. Just them. As Kira walked toward him, she thought about everything that had led to this moment. The restaurant kitchen. The card pressed into her palm. The impossible choice that had changed everything. They said no man would ever choose her. They were wrong. When she reached him, Minjun took her hands, and his voice was thick with emotion. You know, he said softly, just for her, I think I fell in love with you the moment you looked at me and asked why. Why what? Why I would help you. He smiled. No one had ever questioned my motives before. They just accepted whatever I did. His thumb traced circles on her wrist. But you demanded answers. You demanded honesty. You demanded to be seen as an equal. And that made you fall in love with me, That made me realize I've been looking for you my whole life. He lifted her hand to his lips. I just didn't know it until you were standing in front of me. The officiant cleared his throat. Shall we begin? They turned to face each other, hands clasped, hearts full. And when they said their vows, when they promised to love and honor each other through whatever came next, Kira finally understood something she'd been too afraid to believe her whole life. She was enough. She had always been enough. It just took the right person to show her. Now, if this story made you feel something, if you laughed, if you cried, if you fell in love right along with Kira and Minjun, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that they are worthy of love exactly as they are. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. And remember, your story isn't over. The best chapters might still be coming. I'll see you in the next one.